My name is Kenny. I've been practicing business turnaround strategy for a few years now. Because of this rare opportunity I got at Productivity SA, I've been fortunate to work with the CEOs and founders of these multi-million rand companies. And there's one or two things that I've learned, of course. But I'll be sharing my insights into the framework that actually works all the time when you're doing a growth strategy. Then, hopefully, in the next few days, I will be sharing with you the details of how we actually do this turnaround strategy. I'll be going into situational analysis to see how do we actually analyze the market, how do we analyze the industry, and how do we do the internal analysis of the organization, resources and capabilities. And then we go to shareholder value, try to understand what are shareholders actually looking for, how will we measure when the company has grown, and then we will look at the critical part of the market in detail, because this is a growth strategy. It's assuming that your constraint is on the market side. We will also have some time to look at Porter's generic strategies, which is are we cost driven? Are we winning because we're a low cost, or are we a product differentiated company? Are you a niche? And then I'll talk about that as well. And then we'll move and look at the distribution channels that you can use in terms of growing your organization. And then we'll also talk about the 3 steps, which I call them the holy grail of marketing, which is segmentation, positioning, and targeting. At the end, I will be talking about the dashboard, which will be assisting us in terms of tracking some KPIs, important metrics in an organization, and I will be suggesting some metrics. This session, again, I would like to clarify, it's the high-level overview, which is the executive summary of a good business growth strategy or a sales and marketing strategy. This one, the Best Broiler, it's a fiction company, which means it's not a real company that I'm showcasing here, just to protect the data and privacy of the companies that we work with. So the first company we asked ourselves is what's in it for the owners, the shareholder value, and then we say revenue growth year on year by 12% to 98 million. By the time we come to this target, it's because I have looked at the financial statements maybe for the previous 3 years. I have evaluated also what was the trend, and therefore 12%. By the time I also adopt and recommend 12%, it's because I've gone through the probabilities of achieving 12% and what is it based on. And of course, I would have done my market research to see if where we will find this 12% units in the market, or is it will be coming from different segments or be coming from different target segments. We'll have to see. And then the other thing I wanted to say is that we focus on doing strategic planning for 12-month first. That's more priority for me. Personally, I don't like jumping into 3-year to 5-year or longer, because you lose track. You might not actually put in the right resources and capabilities to actually be successful for the next 12 months when you're focusing on a longer period. And also the other advantage of looking at a 12-month is that we can review quickly within a month and to see if it works, the assumptions that we've put there, because really a strategy is a hypothesis. It's based on some assumptions. So we can look per quarter. We can already start to see if we'll be achieving the targets, and then we can change a few things. I thought, let me just add that about why we go for 12 months first and then start talking 3 years and longer. So in this company, we decided that the shareholders agreed that they will want to grow by 12% to 98 million. And then the retained earnings, they wanted to push them to 25 million. On this particular company, the retained earnings were around 18 million. So there was growth in this organization. It's just that we needed more growth as well. And then the cash balance should be up by 8%, the cash balance. That's a function of how well you manage your expenses and how well you're making the decisions around the operational expenses. And then the dividend in this particular case, there was no intention to declare dividends or to give dividends to the shareholders. And then the return on capital employed, which most of the organizations, they aim for 12%. In this one, they said 14%. I have to say, on the previous financial year, it was definitely good. It was also around 12.9%, hence why it was feasible and sound to actually go for 14% return on capital employed. And these kind of things I will be explaining when I go to the deep dive. And then, of course, the shareholders said we want employment to grow employment by 40 employees in the staff. So this is an important part, ladies and gentlemen, because sometimes a client can come and say they want a sales and marketing strategy. You cannot rush too quickly to go and get more customers for that company without having established how will we measure success for this project. For example, you might find that the organization is already growing at a very healthy 2 digits, 16%, 20% on revenue, but you find that the profitability is what's lacking. So that's why it's good to also reflect these matrices with the owners to say, look, we are about to embark on a sales and marketing journey increase with you, but I want to know for sure, is this what will measure success of this project with? And then the next question we ask is why we exist as a company. And this is addressing the part about the vision and the mission. So we say the freshest quality chicken in town. So normally a client might have a vision already, but if they don't have, then I will suggest one powerful vision that should propel them forward. And you must remember, with the vision, it encompasses everything, and it's something that is a goal that we cannot attain, kind of. And then a mission, we sell well-nurtured chickens for our community in Rustenburg and surrounding areas. So we decided to go with that mission as well. So the difference between a vision and a mission, just at a very high level, vision is a high level goal. Normally, it's such an ambitious goal that you will not achieve it. It will be kind of a moving target, a vision. And then a mission is written as if something is happening now. So it's an affirmation. This is what you do in the market. This must talk to the customers, must talk to the industry, must talk to your stakeholders as well. And then the next question we ask, why should customers buy from us? This, ladies and gentlemen, introduces a very important concept of value proposition, which I think is underrated. Many business managers, many corporations are not talking about value proposition. So for me, I make sure that we explore this value proposition, because for me, the simple explanation of a value proposition is, what are you providing and how is it special and for who? So it's answering those 3 questions. Is that, what are you supplying or providing, and how special is that? And in other words, how different is that from the current market, and to who exactly are you providing this for? So we try to have a value proposition. And then where are we going? These are the strategic objectives. Then some thinking must happen to this. You must take your team, management executive, and then Exco to talk about what objectives. These are important goals broken down that will propel. Normally when you are doing a strategic plan, because a strategic plan, as compared to just the sales and marketing plan, will look into the entire organization. But in this case, this is more of a sales and marketing plan. It's just a business growth. Therefore, we didn't do a balanced scorecard approach. In other words, you don't see strategic objectives that have to do with processes. You don't see strategic objectives that have to do with people or learning in this one, but all of them, they are about business growth, which is sales. But it's very important, if you're doing a strategic plan, that you should cover this to have some kind of a balanced scorecard. In other words, it must talk about what you're doing to your team or your human capital or employees, and then what you're doing to also the technology that you are using. So this one, we decided increase sales by 12% in 2025, and then increase operating profit to 4%, improve value proposition and brand equity, and then increase customer loyalty and retention. So we decided on these, and then they were accepted. You will see. And then the last part is how we intend to get there, the outputs. These are now outputs or metrics measurable outputs that will drive us to achieve the strategic objectives. Under increased sales by 12%, we've got customer retention, and then we decided that should be 90%. So to make sure, so how you measure that is how many customers you start off at the beginning of a financial year and how many customers of the same are still with you at the end of a financial year, and then you divide that. So you need to always have 90% of customers going from one financial year with you to the next. That's what we attain to. And why that is very important, some of you will know that it's more difficult to get and acquire new customers, but it's easier to retain current customers. And then revenue growth by 12% here. Revenue growth by 12%, and then new leads must grow by 15%, and then new business revenue. So new business revenue should constitute 10% of the revenue. And then under increased operating profit to 4%, these are the factors that will drive us to achieve this. We need to reduce the cost of goods sold to 48%, and then operating expenses need to reduce them to 46%. And this obviously come after reviewing the financial statements and having done the financial modeling of the next 12 months and the next 3 years. And then we end up with this. And we would have done the modeling to see that this will give us actually the profit of 4%. And then on the improved brand proposition and equity, these are the outputs, brand awareness survey, and this can be done in many formats. You can use one of these technologies online that we have. It's either Google or Microsoft, or you can actually do interviews with your current customers. This is where we ask them, or we ask actually general public, or you choose a sample of if they know about your brand. And this is a very expensive exercise, I have to say, but there is ways to find the brand awareness. You need to do a survey to see how many people know about your brand. And then the web traffic, this we can get, of course, from many sources, either some third party or even on Google itself, to see how many people are interacting with the website, and then average customer satisfaction score. And then that we can actually ask the customer. That is very close to NPS, which we'll talk about here next. Under customer, increased customer loyalty and retention, you've got the NPS, which is Net Promoter Score. Normally we recommend, and the industry standard is that it must be 80%. So this is a measure of how many of your current customers are likely to recommend you to the next. And then you obviously ask the 3 questions. So that's a different subject as well. We will talk about it sometime, of course. And then we can see how we do that. And then number of leads, customers, referral. So as you can see, the outputs that we put under increased customer loyalty and retention, they have to do with how do I achieve customer loyalty. And again, I will emphasize, this should be more important than actually getting new customers, because once you have customers that are already paying and they're with you, it takes less effort, it's less costly to actually keep them with you than to actually spend money to acquire new customers. That's why we will talk about the cost of acquisition, which should be actually compared to a increased lifetime value, customer lifetime value, which we've put here under the operating. So these are things that should talk to each other, but yeah, the cost of acquisition should normally be less than the lifetime value, which is how much each typical consumer of my product or service will spend in their lifetime. And the lifetime could be how much they're spending year on year up until they actually decide not to be with you, whether it's a subscription service or whether it's a consumer product that they actually consume. So ladies and gentlemen, as I said, I wanted this to be a short session, and then in the next few weeks I'll be going deeper. So I have to say, there's many models and frameworks, there's many aspects that we look at before we actually arrive at what you're looking at here. I'll give you an example that if you look at the business growth strategies, we'll have to look at, if I use an Ansoff matrix, for example, it will start telling me if I should use market penetration strategies or market development. And that will obviously depend on the product and how it was behaving or how it was performing in that particular market segment. And then we can go for market development if we think that the product is doing well in a different segment. And then now we just want to go and develop a new market segment. So there's many things that should go behind this basically for us to finalize this. But for today, I just wanted to share with this. Thank you very much for staying with me. Cheers.